As we get closer and closer to the announcement and the launch of the Google Pixel 7a, I thought it might be fun to take a moment and reminisce, if you will, about the Pixel 6a, the last phone in the A series lineup released by Google. So over the last few days, I spent a decent amount of time with this device, kind of like I'm re-reviewing it. I've taken a lot of photos, and I've honestly come away just about as impressed as I was almost one calendar year ago with this device. I still do really like the hardware design. I like the feel in the hand. I really like the size as well. And full disclosure here, this phone had been primarily used by my wife for many, many months after I finished up with my review. And she's not the easiest on these sorts of phones, and it has held up fairly well. There are a few kind of small scratches on the screen, which I'm going to try my best to make visible to you. But overall, the device, I feel like, has held up very, very well after pretty much a full year of solid use. I guess we're like 3 months short of a full year of use, to be accurate. Now, back when the thing came out, a lot was made about the screen, about the fact it was only a 60 hertz refresh rate. I said back then I wasn't super bothered by it, and that is still mostly true today, although I will say 60 hertz is really beginning to show its age. It does look like a 60 hertz screen. I did see some tech reviewer friends of mine on the internet saying that, hey, this software is really smooth and it doesn't feel herky-jerky like 60 hertz normally does. I've never really shared that opinion too much. I get where they're coming from, but it does feel a bit like a 60 hertz screen to me. I'm used to 90 or 120, and really, a lot of time spent on some Samsung devices running at 120. It does feel like 60, but it's not the end of the world. Overall, I think that the screen looks pretty good, right? Like, that's my biggest complaint about it, is the low refresh rate. The rest of it's fine. It's a good size. It's relatively bright for, the price range that it falls in. It's a solid screen. Kind of tangentially related to the screen are probably the speakers, right? And they don't blow you out of the water, but again, in the price range you can find this thing at now, I think that they actually do a pretty good job. Let me give you a quick audio test of that. Another thing that people really complained about with a lot of the more recent Pixel devices is the fingerprint scanner. And I gotta tell you, I've had no issues with it, okay? Like, again, people have had different experiences than me maybe, but for me, the thing has been as reliable as any other fingerprint scanner that I've used in recent history. I don't love in-display fingerprint scanners in general. I find them all a little bit finicky, but again, in the grand scheme of things, it's just another one. It's fine. In terms of performance, it's holding up quite well, I think, there as well. Of course, it's running the Google Tensor Chip, the original Tensor, right? We've got the Tensor G2 in the Pixel 7 Pro, which you just heard some audio sampling from. For comparison, the Tensor G3 probably coming in the 8 pixels, not 8 pixels, but the Pixel 8, the 8th of the pixels coming this fall. So it is getting a little bit older, but it's also only driving a 1080p screen. And unless you're doing like, some high-end gaming, right? If you're going to be loading up Genshin Impact and hoping that you can run it at maxed out settings, you're going to be, sorely disappointed there. But if you're just doing normal phone things, watching YouTube, listening to some tunes, scrolling through the doomscape that is Twitter, it's going to be absolutely adequate for something like that. And kind of, again, parlaying from one topic to another, we could talk about battery life, which has remained pretty consistent, okay? For me, someone that tends to wake up about 6:30, I'm unplugged about then. I'm going to bed about 9:30 with about 35-40% of my battery left, somewhere around 4 or 5 hours of screen time. It's not incredible battery life, okay? But it's definitely a full day phone for me. There have been times I've been able to stretch it to 5 or 6 hours in a day and still be going to bed with 10-15% of my battery left. Decent enough for me. And to add some context to that, my wife, who is now once again using her Galaxy Z Flip, says the biggest thing she misses about the Pixel, well, the two biggest things. One was the camera. Two was the battery life. Let's talk about that camera now. All right, so here's a sample from just the primary sensor on the Pixel 6a, and you're gonna see here, guys, it's fairly well detailed. It's nice and color accurate, really nice, vibrant picture that I like a lot. Getting up nice and close to stuff even gives you a little bit of natural bokeh. Again, really just nice, crisp detail, accurate colors, and I have to mention that, you know, the biggest tech channel in the world did his blind camera test, and of all the smartphones available, this cheap little Pixel 6a came out on top. Here's a picture of a moving target. Still did a pretty good job there. In some lower light here indoors, again, still did pretty decently. Okay, a little bit of grain there, but this is in pretty low light where this was. Looking pretty solid. Portrait mode is really, really nice on this phone as well. Definitely better than a lot of the phones in the price range this thing is. And honestly, I think that the video looks fairly decent as well. It's not, you know, flagship caliber stuff, but it's pretty good. If you've got less than $400 to spend and you want a phone that you know the camera is going to be reliable and it's going to take just like point, shoot, and you know you're good kind of pictures, Pixel 6a is a really good way to go. And I know throughout this, I've been, you know, talking about how this phone is, but then in relation to its price. So let's take a moment and let's look at that. So on Amazon, it's right now $299. I would say that right now, if you're looking for, you need a budget phone, $299 is an absolutely fair price for this phone. Now, bear in mind, there is a Pixel 7a probably coming in June, but it's likely to be closer to $450. You may also see this phone drop in price again between now and then. So you got to weigh your options there. On Google, officially, it is also $299. So I think this phone has held up remarkably well for being a lower end or a mid-range phone is really what it is. It's a mid-range phone that has dropped closer to the starter phone, the low-end price range, and I believe it may drop again when the 7a gets closer. I do think the 7a is going to be a vastly improved device, though. Faster refresh rate on the screen, potential improvements to the camera that might be big, Tensor G2 in there instead of the original G1, some slow, albeit, you know, present wireless charging as well. But again, it's likely to be 150 plus more than the Pixel 6a. So guys, there you go. That's the Pixel 6a, almost a year in. What's it like using it in 2023? Still pretty good, guys. Like I said earlier, my wife and her Z Flip, she still kind of talks about going back to the Pixel 6a because it's that good of a phone even still. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button before you go. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.